الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى أهله وصحبه. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah accept our prayers and jazakumullah khair for your patience. So today is day 6 of our Modesty Series, and it is one of, in my opinion, the most important topics we will discuss in the whole series. And this is about women's dress, ʿAwrah, and public presence. Why is this important to me? It is not because I am another man looking to tell women what to do, but rather I revere and value the women of our community so much. And I was saying this the other day during our youth lecture. If our sisters are on the right path, the whole community is saved. Oh, the fitna of the ummah today, and the ummah were weak and we can't support Palestine and the youth are going astray, and we can begin to list all the issues we have. Wallahi, if the women are on the right path, we are all saved, because they are the backbone of every community. Now, this is my opinion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. In my opinion, if you're going to display the roles between men and women, men are the steering wheel, the gas pedal, and the brake pedal. Women are the rest of the car. You can't drive without the steering wheel, the gas, and the brake. But then the car definitely would not exist without the rest of the parts. I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm giving this analogy to show how important it is. So, given that this is how important I view our sisters to be, given how much I love and respect the sisters of our community for the sake of Allah, then it is very important that just as I made sure yesterday that the men were on point, then we need our sisters to be on point as well. May Allah purify our intentions. Now, this topic is usually emotionally charged, because oftentimes sisters will be judged harshly because their commitment to these guidelines are much more visible than it is when men try to commit to their guidelines. If a brother is not dressing modestly, sometimes it goes easily undetected. But if a sister is dressing immodestly, it is very easy to recognize. Therefore, they get most of the blame. And then sometimes in the way we have these discussions, the pressure feels more like control rather than advice. And this is something that us brothers, we need to do a better job of when we speak on this topic. Don't make it seem like you want to control what she is doing. When sisters, especially those who revert to Islam and they want to start giving da'wah and they speak about hijab, the first thing they mention is what? No one is forcing me to wear this. Why? Because that is the public perception. Why is that the public perception? Because of how the brothers are giving da'wah on this topic. So we ask that Allah give us the hikmah, the wisdom to do better when we advise our sisters, our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our daughters on this topic. And it is important. Why should we mention this? Brother, why don't you just send a hadith, a verse in the group chat and then let it be? Because this is essential for the sisters to be modest and for the brothers to be modest, for the health of our society, like I just mentioned, to protect our hearts and to prevent pathways to fitna. And in the later lessons in this series, I will go more into details, the effects that is spread throughout society, or the events that affect society when we don't hold on to these guidelines. First, to give, of course, the evidence, which is always important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the believing women, and do not display their adornment except what usually appears, and let them draw their coverings over their chest. Allah also says, O Prophet, tell your wives and your daughters and the women of the believers to bring down over themselves part of the outer garments. That is suitable, that they will be recognized and not harmed. And then also the Quran says, do not be soft in speech, but speak with appropriate speech. This in Quran chapter 33, verse 32, and the other verses were also in 33 and also in Quran chapter 24. Now, when the verse on hijab was revealed, I want to take us back to the women of the Ansar during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How did they react when the verse for covering yourself was revealed? Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, "By Allah, wallahi, I have never found anybody better than the women of Ansar when it came to honoring the book of Allah and having faith in his instructions." When the verse instructing them to extend the veils was revealed, the Ansar men returned to their homes, conveyed the verse to their wives, their daughters, their sisters, and immediately they started to untie the belts around their waist. And they were looking for some sheets, something immediately so they can cover themselves. This had nothing to do with being in public. This had nothing to do with, men telling them what to do. Is that what Allah said that we must do? Then immediately I must not waste any time to do it. And this is, subhanAllah, this is not only an example for the sisters, but for the brothers too. How many times we are doing something and somebody say, this is haram, or this is what Allah and his Prophet said regarding this. And we say, oh, okay, Jazakallah khair, inshallah, maybe one day I'll stop. What did they do immediately? Is that what Allah said? Subhanallah. And they untied their belts and they looked for sheets to cover themselves. And the next morning when they offered salah led by the Prophet, it seemed as if crows sat on their head. This was the description because all of them were wearing scarves in the masjid. So now we're going to go over some of these guidelines. Now, it is not lost on me that the guidelines differ in very subtle ways from school of thought to school of thought, but generally it is the same. Generally, the fundamentals are the same. Your ʿawrah, the ʿawrah for the sisters, is what? Everything except for the face and hands. The non-mahram should not see the ʿawrah, which means the non-mahram should not see anything except for their face and hands. Again, this is not what I want. This is not what the men of, the Muslim men want. This is what Allah and his Prophet wants. I have to be honest. I said in the beginning, we will have some comments that sting a little bit, so please forgive me. I hope I don't get chased in the parking lot. But I am a non-mahram to the sisters who are here. I'm pretty sure my mother, my sister, my daughters are not in over here. If they are, why did you come all the way to Amira without letting me know? But I'm sure they're not here, which means I should not see any part of your body except for your face and hands. This is what Allah has ordained. How are we going to what? Make sure we commit to this. So a major change of wardrobe might be in session. In front of your mahrams. So now your fathers, your brothers, your sons, and there's a few more names on that list. Your ʿawrah is reduced where they can see your head, your hair, your neck, your arms, and your lower legs, but you must still be modest. This is something that a lot of us struggle with, a lot of the sisters and the brothers too. When you are with your mahrams, yes, they might be able to see your hair and your arms, but you must still be modest. You must still have a respectful distance, especially when they are older. Oh, that's my brother, that's my cousin, that's my uncle. You must still be modest and be very careful. And if we look in society, some of the complaints, it's more than complaints, but I'll use the word complaint for now, that are coming out about how some family members are becoming abusive towards their own sisters, their own women in the family. It is because we are abusing this principle of modesty. Another guideline is that the clothes must not be see-through. The clothes must not be tight and it must not be revealing the shape. Just like it was for the men yesterday, also for the women as well. The clothing must not be tight. If you go on these websites that sell sisters' clothing, almost every time there's a belt around the waist. Almost every time it has to be fitted, and the model who's displaying the clothing is it's the opposite of modesty. And this is something that a lot of the brothers don't know. For the sisters who want to observe modesty and do a good job in terms of when following these guidelines, it is very difficult for the sisters to find good clothing on this. I would have not known if it wasn't for my wife, spilling the tea, as they say. It is very difficult for them. So, for any of the husbands here who your anniversary is coming up, a great present. See if you can find clothing that is very stylish, mashallah, in fashion. Maybe have some of the women in your family help you pick, but then it is also modest, and it most likely will be expensive. I'm giving you a heads up. To dress modestly is to dress expensive. That's why some sisters, some of the clothes that they have, it is because this is what it's much more cheaper. If you go on Shein, the prices that you will find for some of these jalbabs, it's tight, but $5 is $5. So we ask that Allah make it easy for the sisters to be able to purchase better clothing, and may Allah allow some of the sisters to be creative enough to start their own online stores, and we can figure out a solution to make modesty more accessible and affordable. And the last two guidelines I will mention and go through it quickly because of time. Tabarruj, displaying yourself, attention seeking, putting yourself in the front line. This is something that it is very common nowadays, especially in the Western society that we live in. Sometimes sisters find themselves in a position where they have no choice but to be in the front line, but to be in front of a bunch of men. But if you can avoid it, my dear sisters, it is way better for you to what? Avoid being in the front. Even if it is not your intention to seek attention, but you might end up getting that attention and your intention changes. I hope you understood that sentence. It might not be your intention to seek attention, but once you get the attention, your intention changes. So again, prevention is better than cure. Don't put yourself in that position. And this also addresses the sisters who post themselves online. You have to be very careful about how you display yourself. Again, better to avoid it than to navigate whether or not I did the wrong thing. And lastly, it should not resemble men's dressing. It is actually becoming very popular where there are certain clothing that is more, geared towards men in our culture. We understand this is how men dress, and then women will dress this way. There are some who even try to abide by the rules of modesty, technically, by not making it tight and loose. But if this attire, if this outfit is what we use to identify men, to the point where somebody will see you and accidentally call you brother, then perhaps there is an issue with what we are wearing. We ask that Allah make it easy for us. And the final advice that we will give is what? The outfit, the hijab, is not a costume. What do I mean by this? If a sister is wearing hijab, mashallah, and she abides by the rules of modesty, that is not the only thing you are expected of, or that is not what modesty is limited to. So sometimes you have sisters who, mashallah, they have even niqab, even when dressed very appropriately, but they will speak very ill of others. They gossip, they backbite, they insult. Meanwhile, you have the sister who's struggling, with her hijab, and she's trying her best, and she will have the most beautiful of character. We cannot judge one over the other, but in the eyes of Allah, you do not know who Allah will love more. So the sister who wears the hijab should not speak ill or look down on the one who does not. And the one who does not should, inshallah, be humble enough to accept the advice from those who do. And we ask that Allah grant us iman in our hearts. So the homework, and of course, this homework is for the sisters, but the brothers should listen so they can advise the women in their family. Take one step towards becoming dignified and obeying Allah. Go through your wardrobe. Asking you to throw away every tight clothing you have, subhanAllah, I know I won't make it to my car without, a few stitches. But at least one. Go through your closet. Just like the women of Ansar, they heard the verses and they hurried up to find just just a bed sheet, something to cover themselves. We must also react the same way when we hear that Allah asks us to cover our adornments. And we ask that Allah make it easy for us. We ask that Allah honor our sisters with iman and clothe them with dignity and taqwa. Oh Allah, protect them from the pressures of the world and make their modesty a source of light and strength. Oh Allah, unite our community upon mercy and guidance and accept our Ramadan. Ameen. Wa jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.